Hi guys, and welcome back to Christian Cast, where I build baits so you don't have to. Today I'm giving you a little bit of a sneak peek into next week's video as well already, because I lost the footage of the intro for this week's video. So we are actually making a trout grub, and it's gonna be a mold with 3 compartments. So I've never done something like that, and I'm just gonna take you with in real time to show you how quickly you can actually 3D model and print a lure mold that you can actually cast quite a lot of lures with in the future. It's got very easy functions that you can take yourself into other 3D printing software and make your own molds and then print them straight away. We're also going to be looking into the flow of the mold itself, because I straight away noticed I made a little bit of a mistake in today's video, but I'll go into that in next week's video anyway, once we casted it and also demolded, because we actually are going to make a 2-colored trout grub, and I just see how the flow is in the mold itself through using 2 colors, but I'll show you that anyway in the upcoming video. So I'll straight away head over into the 3D printing software and into the 3D modeling software and show you guys how we made this. I'll just show you guys the mold beforehand, and I'll also show you a finished version and a finished casted lure at the end of the video, because I am already ahead of time and I actually casted it already, and it's quite cool. There's still some things I have to change in the mold itself, but we'll go into detail in that anyway in the future. And I'll also go into detail why we are actually doing a 3D modeling video today and not going further with the 3D printed swim and glide bait, because I'm actually running into trouble. But I'll go into detail in the outro. If you're interested, you can anyway stick around and see what we're going to talk about in that aspect. So straight away I'll pop you guys over on the screen and we'll go into the modeling of today's lure mold, and then we'll also take a look at what I want to change still on the other bait in the outro. So I'll pop you guys over, and I wish you guys a great time, and I hope you guys can learn something. So let's get started. So welcome to the desk, and we'll straight away get started. We'll go into this axis and we'll start with drawing some help lines just to see which size we are actually going to make our lure. So we'll draw this out, and we are going to be around 60 millimeters, and we will also be around 5 millimeters because we're going to revolve the actual drawing. So we know that we will stick around 5 with the height, and then we will see that about at 20 millimeters the hook actually comes out. So these lines actually just help you to orientate on how big the drawing should actually be then. And the first thing we're going to do is start with a spline drawing, and we will go along about to here. Then we will draw in our sketch, go down and just place him about here. Now we can actually take these points and place them a little bit in a way we would like. So I'm actually going to delete this one. We will drag this one out and round it. Then we can take him back a little bit like that, and we will also drag this one back a bit. So we will make a little tail a bit further back around here, and we will place him like that, and we will also not round it as much that we have got a little bit of a decrease of the volume towards the tail. So I will actually delete this point still, and this one we will go ahead and drag out like that and also pull him down, and then we can also drag this one down. So now we see where we are about with our height of the lure and or of the soft plastic, and we can go ahead and also drag these a bit still down, and then this should be pretty much ready for creating our first part. So now we will go ahead, I will stay in that sketch, and we will straight away trim away our helping lines, so we won't be using those two anymore. And then we can go ahead and say we would like to, I just check this point still, if he is centered, yes. So now, as I said, we go out, choose this sketch and revolve it around this axis. That is going to be the first body part of our lure. We see that that is actually looking quite nice. Now we can actually go back and make a new sketch in the same plane that we were in before. So we'll again add a helping line just to know how long our tail actually will be. So we'll stick with our 60 that we were planning, and we can now go ahead and use our spline function. We'll use the midpoint, and we will just go ahead and draw out a nice little curve, come back right here, and end up right there. So now we can actually drag these points again towards where we want them to be. So I will make these two quite symmetrical, that we have a nice tail right there. Then we'll drag this back in a bit and just start forming what we think would look good and work well. So we're gonna make a little broader right here, but I'm actually quite happy with that. We will now just broaden the top and maybe push it back a little bit, just like that. And once this is done, I think I am quite happy with how that looks now. So you can go out, you see there's these two halves, you don't want that. So now we will go back in the sketch, we see this is where our 60 is actually, so maybe we'll still go back a bit and just drag out the tail a bit, because it anyway doesn't matter too much, we just want it to be nice and floppy. So we'll just drag him out about like that. Then we can also minimize the height, because I am limited with my printer to the size of the mold I can print, because I am using the A1 mini, so that you always have to keep in mind a little bit. Now I'm quite happy with that. We will go out, and as I said, these two we are going to look at now. So we'll go into our sketch, and we forgot to trim away our helping line. Once you trim away our helping line, you can go out and you see it will be the entire body. So now we can choose the symmetrical extrusion setting, and we will pull him out to 1 millimeter. So our tail will be 2 millimeters thick, and we will say we would like to have it in union with the body. Now we have got our finished tail for our trout grub, and we can go ahead and add a fillet to round off the corners a little bit. It often gives you a little bit of trouble trying to do that. So as we see here, we can go to 0.8, and here we are having trouble. So we will try and find a value. This is always different. I don't know on what it actually with what it actually hangs together, but we will just choose one that works because it isn't too important, and it will help us if we have the same on both sides. So we'll go with 0.4 for this one, and here as well. You won't really see this once you do the 3D print because it is really so small. It just helps with the casting. So now we have got our bait, which is cool. So that is pretty much done. The next thing we're going to be doing is we will go ahead and start a new sketch in right about here, because we can straight away plan where we will be casting into. So we will make a 5mm inlet for our extrude symmetrically, and we see that that is actually not ideal. So we will actually choose this for our sketching. That is when there is a little bit standing further out than the plane itself, and then you should just choose the side that you have. Through making a symmetric extrusion, we will anyway be looking at the entire surface. It still is the same, but we'll just do a other trick. So we will do a about 3mm because we are going to try and keep it as close together as possible. Now we will still choose union, and that's going to be done. Now we will still go ahead and pull out this till it meets up with the surface here. So now we have got the surface. We'll still pull it out maybe another millimeter, that, or actually 2, just like that. Then we have got a nice channel where we can then extrude a casting channel into, but I'll show that in the next step. Now we will actually go ahead and choose our body, and we would like to make a pattern in this direction, and we'll just see how far apart we have to go. So we can now say 70. Okay, it's still possible to go a bit nearer together. We'll go 60. 60 is quite close. We'll see if we can do 55 without them touching. So no, that doesn't go. So we'll do 57. And that is gonna be what we are gonna work with now in the next stage. So now we have pretty much got our casting channel right here, and we will go ahead and go into this plane and draw a circle with 5mm right there, which we can extrude up. We will again choose union, and we will try and see that we are about, let's say, I think 90 will be okay for that. So now we will still make sure that we also extrude it down. Just like that. And we have got our casting channel where we can place our injection then and press in the silicone mix that we will be using for casting. Now we will still have to look and find out how we can actually create a air outlet for any air that is in our mold when we are casting it. So that's going to be the next thing we are actually going to look at, and we will do that in this plane. So that is exactly in the middle of our mold itself, and we will now go ahead and draw very easy air outlets right at the tip here, and we will go up to our top body and connect that. We will do exactly the same right here. We will make them about the same size. So that is going to be those vents. That means that when the material runs in here, the air gets pushed out. We'll see if it's going to be a problem with the bottom one. We'll be casting very slowly, so I'm actually hoping that the bottom form fills first, and we push out the air through this tail out into the second one, and then fill up the second one, push out the air through into the third one, and then we will make one air chamber still at the top here that we will place exactly the same as the other ones right about here, and we will then go up to where we started. So we will also make it 2 millimeters, and we will place it right here, and we will heighten this to here. So that's going to be our air outlet. Now we have drawn them, so we can go ahead and extrude them once again symmetrically, and we will do them in the same thickness than our tail, and we will choose union. So now we have got that, and we can again use the fillet and make it that did work the last time. Funny, doesn't work this time. So we'll just leave it at that and actually see how they work. We'll anyway clean up the tails, it won't matter too much. I don't want to drag this out too long, because we are actually just seeing how long it would take to make a functional mold, and I don't really think that we will see too much of that. So we will again do union, and then we'll go ahead, do the same right here, and we will end up doing it also again. Wait, I have to do symmetric, and then we will go ahead and do 1 millimeter and also make one body out of the entire thing. So now you can see that the mold itself will look like this. You will have to part the separate sections right there, but we won't really mind that too much. Now we are just gonna go ahead and actually make one more sketch, but not in that plane or on that face. We will go ahead and do it again in our middle, and we will make a chamber where excess material can be in and caught right about here. So we will make it 9 millimeters long. That means we can then, once that is done, we will also do symmetric, and we will go union and pull it out to about 8 millimeters. Or maybe even a little bit. No, we'll stick with 8. That's fine. So that's going to be how it looks in the software. Now we can go ahead and actually add a new construction plane offset to our center, and we will go ahead and add it about at, we'll do 18. Although 18 is actually quite a lot of material, and we'll try and save a bit. So we'll do 16. Now we can go ahead and make our mold. So now we will keep in mind that we are going to print it on the A1 Mini, and we have to fit screws in, and we have to fit anything else as well. So I'm not even too sure if this will work out on the printer, because 100 is pushing the limits a little bit, but we can still pull this down a little bit and just not have as much as a excess material chamber at the top. And we'll actually do that straight away, that way not that high, because anyway we'll leave it at that. And now we'll go ahead and extrude this into the middle of our body. So we'll check that that is in, and we now know that we have got our extrusion the right size. We will do new body, and like this we can check we are in by the 16 millimeters as we extruded on the other side. And now we can go ahead and do that, and now we are actually ready for the exciting part. I always enjoy it, pretty much most. We will go to tools, and we will have to exit this first. We will go to tools, and we will click on subtract, if I see it, and we will subtract our soft plastics from the mold itself. So as you see, that is what we are working with, and that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Subtract. Done. So now we see that this is what we are working with. We can even go back a little bit with our mold, that we don't use too much of the material itself, and I am quite happy with how that looks. So now we can go ahead and still sketch out some holes for our screws. So we will place them along here, and we will try to, it's always a game of how to place them best because we are always got a little bit of a problem with space, but we'll just try our best. That is quite thin, so we'll push it in here. We won't really mind too much that they are symmetrical or anything. We'll just try and place them that we can print them well. So I am not too worried on how they lay out. We're just trying to optimize that we can actually maybe even print two at the same time, which would be great. Otherwise we will have to do one after the other, which just means more time in the printer and less time casting them. So we will just go through, make our holes. Then I can export this file and you guys can see the print settings I'm using, and then we will cast them in next week's video because I don't want to drag it out too long, and we'll see how they work. I might even take them out and test them. So now I will just go ahead and there we go, now we've got them all through. So now I'll just go ahead, export this, put it into the printing software itself, and then we'll go through the printing settings that I will be using. Now, as you guys can see, I have now placed our mold into the 3D printing software. I looked, the drawing time itself was under 30 minutes. So if you practiced, and I'm actually filming a video and trying to explain things, if you just do it for yourself, you might even be quicker. So it really isn't a hard thing to do and make a mold like this. Now I'll just go through the print settings with you guys. The print itself takes 6 hours or a bit more, I checked. But we'll anyway see that still. So I will show you the finished mold in next week's video because I don't want to drag it out too long, and we'll just keep this as a technical video. I'll get you guys back for the outro, show you what I'm doing with my Swimbait, and just that this doesn't go out too long. So as I showed in the molding video for my Swimbait tails, if you haven't seen it, I'll pop a video up here or up here and you guys can check that out, because I also go through the ironing settings that I'm going to be using. So we are going to just do a pretty easy print. We are going to be using the top surface pattern rectilinear, the bottom surface pattern rectilinear, internal solid infill rectilinear, and the space infill also. We will be printing with 85% in infill wall overlap and space infill density. That means that we have got a quite strong part, because as I said in the other mold videos, I like it when the molds itself are quite sturdy, because I screw them together quite well, that no silicone or any liquid starts seeping out of the mold and messes up your table. So that is something that you can keep in mind. We won't be needing any support for this mold, and we will just be setting the ironing settings. I will be using the rectilinear once again for the top surface, and we will be just using the standard settings that come with that. I will show you why I use them, because I will now go to the prepared mold itself. If you look, we will still have some print lines. They won't be completely gone in the rounded edges. You can still go into other settings that that round that off even more, but I don't want to go into that, and I'll show you in a other video how you can maybe make these curves a little bit rounder, but we won't worry too much for this bait itself. It gives it a little bit of texture, and I actually like how it looks right now. So the tail itself will be quite flat through the ironing settings that we have chosen. All flat surfaces work very well. Now I'll just show you guys what happens if you go into concentric ironing. If you go into that setting, you will see that you end up with more unclean surfaces along here, because you have a different pattern. So you'll have unclean surfaces right here in your tail. Also inside of your bait, you see that there are some lines, and it doesn't look as clean as if we do it with rectilinear. I'll show you once again that you can compare. If you look at this, this will be a lot cleaner look for the lure itself and for minimal cleanup, because we'll be just doing minimal cleanup and then we'll be casting, and we'll see how it turns out, that you guys can imagine how your lures would look if you just print it and cast directly into the mold. So as you see, it is quite a big mold, because we are doing a 3-parted one. It is also once again a stackable mold, because you could add more next to each other if you have long enough screws. So you could then always double and triple the output. And as you see, we are going to be printing for the next 6.5 hours. So I'll start this straight away and then I'll see you guys in the outro. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see what we are able to cast next week. Hi guys, and welcome back to the outro. So as you saw, today's video is going to be a little bit longer because the 3D modeling with explaining everything that I do and showing you in real time how I actually model it. The drawing part is a bit around 30 minutes, a bit under 30 minutes, but we actually end up with this finished mold. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm also happy with the first cast that I made, which I'll show you in next week's video. And I'll just give you a little sneak peek of the lure we were able to make. I'll also be going into a real test in the next video and take it out to a small stream. So this is just like a classic little trout grub. You can cast quite a lot of them, change up colors, play around with that. And we'll also be going into details in what I'm actually going to change. If you look at the screen right now, you actually see some things that I changed towards the mold in the video today already, because I straight away after casting this went back to my desktop and changed up a little bit, and we'll go into that in next week's video. So in the video after I actually cast these. So next week's video is going to be the casting video towards the bait, and we'll go out and test it. And after that video is finished, we will look at how it flows through the form itself, and we'll then go ahead, do some changes, print a new mold, and test it again. So I'll make just one video towards that then at the end, because I don't want to drag it out too much like this one. So it's going to be a one-parted lure with just going into detail of the changes we made, and then also straight away casting and testing the lure. Now to the part of why I'm actually doing a little bit of a 3D modeling video today and not going into more detail on my Swimbait. I'm actually just needed a little bit of a break to clear my head for this lure. I then tested the polyurethane varnish. As I said in the last video, if you didn't see it here or there, I did a UV coat, and I was looking forward to actually test a spray-on clear coat. So the thing is, I actually followed all the instructions on the product itself. We applied a lot of thin layers and also let them dry for 24 hours before reapplying. And we also waited nearly an entire week before starting the first clear coat on a airbrushed lure. The only problem I ran into, I don't know if it is because we had a lot of humidity or anything else, is that once the clear coat was applied and dried, it was softer than I was hoping for. So I then tested it and checked how resilient it is to scratches, and I actually was very disappointed, because once I scraped it or dented it a little bit, it seemed a lot softer than I am used to with the UV coat. And a big disadvantage was that once it was scratched, you could actually peel off the entire clear coat and it damaged the color beneath, and you could peel it off like a second skin. So I am not going to follow that route anymore. We're going to try something different, maybe a different spray on clear coat in the future. I'm not too sure what we're going to do, because I really want to tune them in well before releasing the STL, that I can create a tutorial on how to prepare your print after everything, and weighted which clear coat I use, and that once you actually have the STL and printed, you know exactly what I'm using to get the action I have. So I'm really excited to still work on this lure. It's a little bit of a longer project, but it's really cool and I'm enjoying it a lot. So I've got a lot of prototypes still that I printed, and we'll go ahead, fix them up, make them ready, try different clear coats, and things like that, I'll anyway take you guys with. And I just want to thank you as well once again for joining me on today's video and just following my journey on 3D printing, lure building and casting things. So if you have any questions, please reach out. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. And I hope you could take something with of today's video. If you're interested in how it is casted, look forward to next week's video, because we'll also go into detail, because we'll also demold the trout grub and see how the liquid actually flows through the mold itself and what we change to the next model. So I wish you guys a great one, and we'll see each other for next week, and keep on fishing. Cheers.